Well, hello, hello, hello. It is your favorite filmmakers again from Austin, Texas. A Place Pictures. Just in case you didn't know, that's who we are.
That's who we are.
Yeah, that's who we are. That's us. That's us, buddy. You got us. We are here today.
We're here. So, how's it going?
It is going good since we last met. So I actually went and saw Magazine Dreams.
Yeah.
Recently.
How was it?
It was pretty incredible, actually. It was pretty incredible. I think, man, Jonathan Majors, like, I know, like, he had his rough time and he had his issues or whatever, but that dude, I mean, so I knew Jonathan Majors could act before I watched it. So him doing a performance, that was already something I was expecting. But the idea of him, like, being, he's so much into that character, you think it's him.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, this is Jonathan Majors' documentary. And it's kind of creepy too, because he has these moments where he just does these things. You're like, there's a particular scene. So the whole film is basically about, the film is a character study, and it follows a typical character study model. You know, you introduce your character, you show the issues and their problems, you put them in a situation where you exploit those issues and their problems, you have a big blow up, and then you have your wrap up at the end, right?
Yeah.
And so it pretty much follows that model, but I guess the thing that's so fun to watch is that character that he's embodying is so explosive and unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do in certain situations. And so when he's in certain situations with people, you're like, ugh. And there's this one scene in particular, like, I'm not going to spoil it, but he goes out on this date, and you just, any minute, you're like, what is he going to do to this poor woman? So that was, but yeah, that was a good movie, man. That guy, Alicia, I think his name is Alicia Vinum. I think that's how you pronounce it. I hope I'm not pronouncing it wrong, but I do want to see more stuff by him from henceforward. It felt like a really sincere film, but in comparison to another film that had a similar topic that I had just watched, The Wrestler, by one of my favorites, Darren Aronofsky, it is pale in comparison, but
Yeah.
it still was pretty good though.
It's
So that's
hard to
how I've
tell.
been, man. I've been thinking about Jonathan Majors, man. So how have you been?
Yeah, thinking about Jonathan Majors as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. It's going on. It's going on.
You think he'll ever come back to the Marvel world? Will ever let him back?
I'd like to see him back.
Yeah.
I really would. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. At one point, I thought definitely not, but it seems like he may be getting some good upward momentum.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you never know. They may be like, hey, maybe we can use just like one shot of Kang.
Yeah.
and have him play it,
It would be interesting to at least, because I mean, it would be weird for them to switch story. I'm sure they've got a way. They're figuring out a way to do it to where it's not like, because it's such a big character that he's playing. So I could see that character. I mean, they got to talk about it, just continuity wise. They have to.
At some point, yeah.
No. That'll be interesting. My week, it's been all right. Not. I'm going through the Marvel world.
Oh, okay. The MCU.
Yeah.
Like film by film. Well, I mean, which one so far like you kind of stuck with you the most?
So I'm going through the MCU Infinity Saga according to Disney Plus. There's like they have a timeline. It's not the timeline, or it is. I don't know. I get confused with all that. I've been trying to figure that out, and that's confusing. And have you ever tried to figure that out with the X-Men timeline? Don't. Yeah, don't try that. because you'll go crazy. That's insanity right there if you try to figure out their timeline. because there's different one. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't even
I
get me
remember.
started.
Yeah, I remember. Oh,
It's
I
so
remember.
confusing.
Because with you talking about with Days of Future Past and all of that and how they changed it. Yeah.
And how the whole thing, and even Deadpool, Deadpool 3 with Wolverine, that confuses it even more. And yeah, it's so confusing. But yeah, I'm going through the Marvel world again because there were movies I didn't see before. I never watched Iron Man 3. I never saw, what was it? I never saw Thor originally. I've seen it twice now, but
Kenneth Branagh.
yeah, that's my favorite. Surprisingly,
Really?
I think so. Yeah, because it's dealing with like not the world. It's dealing with like Odin and Thor and that whole world, and they're the different I don't know, planes of existence or whatever. It's interesting, but it's interesting how much it's tied into like the Avengers. It's so that's why like when I saw the Avengers in theaters, but I was very confused because I was like, who's Loki? Because I never saw Thor, and there was just so much backstory that I was like, that kind of doesn't make sense. But now I'm watching it back to back, and I'm like, okay, now I see everything it makes sense. And I'm watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, see, I actually never went through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was,
Yeah,
I tried, but I kind of got bored. Maybe
Yeah.
like after the first episode.
I don't blame you. Well, the first episode's actually pretty bad. It was written and directed by Joss Whedon, but it's bad, like as a pilot. The one after it is like they kick it into high gear with production value and everything.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good.
Okay.
And so, I don't know. It's still like, I mean, it's very much like a Whedon type of show where it's these people that are getting together to defeat something, and but it's pretty good. And so far, it fits with the storyline. So I'm gonna watch part of it and then keep going with the thing. But I saw Iron Man 3 finally. I never seen that. That was really good. I liked that a lot. But yeah, that's my week.
That's your week, huh?
Yeah.
So Jonathan Majors and Joss Whedon, huh? That's an interesting week. Joss Whedon, he's like, I wonder what he's gonna do next. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder.
I don't know if he is gonna do anything.
Yeah,
else.
like, I mean, it seems like he has enough notoriety and success to where he possibly can retire. But I like to think of him as the type that, like, wants to keep doing work. You know what I mean? It seems like he's the type. So
yeah, I'm sure he is. He just, he was canceled, right? The whole canceled. Yeah, he was. People kind of came out and said he was like abusive on set, and yeah. So like that whole thing it was sort of around the whole Justice League, Zack Snyder, and the guy that plays Cyborg, forget his
name.
But he came out and said like Joss Whedon was a tyrant on set.
Oh, the Cyborg guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so there was other people that kind of came across said he was like, a tyrant on set. So I don't know, but I do Joss Whedon as a artist. I like, and I've been watching Buffy for the first time, and so I'm like I grew up like watching Firefly. I really like Firefly, but that was really the only thing I saw of Whedon, and then so now I'm like watching a bunch of stuff by Whedon.
Yeah, I remember I liked Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The movie was hilarious, man.
I never seen
I think he wrote that too, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he wrote and directed.
It was pretty funny. I remember because I guess that was out. I want to say maybe when I was in high school or whatever when it came out. And that was pretty fun. I remember thinking that humor was pretty funny. As a matter of fact, I think I quoted it at school, but nobody knew what I was talking about though. So that has happened before. It's happened before.
He's very quotable.
Oh yeah.
Of Whedon. Yeah, I feel like I'm in my teens again watching Buffy, even though that has nothing to like I was homeschooled.
Oh God.
And yeah.
I'm joking.
So I never had like an average teenage like life, I guess. Not that I didn't hang out with people, go to parties and stuff, but it was quite different. Like, and so like seeing this, like, well, the Buffy world is like, they're, teens in the high school. And so I'm like,
relive high school,
I get to relive high school for the first time, and it's makes me not want to grow up.
Yeah, I mean, we had vampires too, man, in high school too. So you dodged the bullet.
See, that's what my mom said. She warned me
there.
again. She said, "You don't want to go into high school. Trust me."
Yeah, because it's probably because of the vampires. I mean, that's why they did Lost Boys. They tried to tell us.
Yeah.
That vampires were there. I mean, I saw a few myself. I ran, but yeah,
That's scary.
it is. It is. Speaking of though, on that, that in parts of the Midrash, which the Midrash is rabbinic commentary on the Torah, the books of the Bible, that Esau was a vampire. Jacob's brother Esau.
Really?
Because he goes and becomes a part of a pagan nation, and the pagan nation, he like rises up in rank there, and he becomes a vampire.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was the first one. Maybe he was a Dracula or not. But anyway,
Scary. Is he still around then?
I hope not. I hope not. That would be creepy.
Yeah, vampires. I don't know.
Yeah, that's they're not fun. I mean, we thought they were fun when we were kids growing up, but turns out they're murderers.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. So this week, our movie thingy of the week is so what we are going to do is we are going to rearrange. So I know Dylan's favorite directors, and he knows my favorite directors. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the films from Dylan's favorite director, and I'm going to rearrange the plot to describe it and see if he can guess what movie that is. And he's going to do the same for me. And the wonderful thing about this is you guys get to watch this wonderfulness happen in real time.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty amazing.
I mean, we, not real time because it's not live, but y'all know what we mean.
We're going to sit and I'm going to have to think.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to think.
You're going to have to think. Well, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'll go first then.
Okay. You got something?
Yeah. I got something for you.
All right.
So,
what do we got?
this film is about an person with obsessive compulsive disorder that is trying to travel to another location for free.
Okay. Any other hints?
It's funny. I figured you'd get it from that.
Wait. Okay. No. Okay. Wait. It's from a director. It's from one of my favorite directors. Mm-hmm. Is it a movie I'm a fan of?
Yes.
Okay. Adaptation?
No. That's not one of your favorite directors.
Yeah, Spike Jonze. Well,
it's one of your top 5.
Oh, top 5. So from our
yeah.
Thing?
By the way, yes. By the way, we're drawn from the directors that we already spoken of as our top 5 directors on our audio only podcast that you can check out on Spotify. Just search aplacepictures.com and you should be able to find it on Spotify. Just search on Spotify A Place Pictures and we should pop up because we're amazing.
We're on iTunes too and Amazon Music.
Did y'all see that?
We got an RSS feed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're not messing around. We're very serious
Get
about
with the
this.
program. Get with the program.
A guy who had OCD and is traveling somewhere. Is that what you said?
And he's trying to do it for free or on a discount.
Trying to do it for free or a discount. Man, what is this?
Let me know and I'll give you another hint.
Okay. Man, I'm drawing a blank. I want to guess it from what you've told me so far. I'm trying to think of the directors from my list. Who were they? I'm drawing a blank. Oh, okay. No, OCD. You got another hint? That's
What stops it is that he falls in love with someone.
Punch Drunk Love.
Ah, there we go. You got it, man.
I kept thinking about, it being Paul Thomas Anderson thing, but then I was like, I kept thinking about, like The Master, and I was like, he didn't have OCD. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good one because, that's exactly what.
Because he's trying to find those. He's trying to cash in those. What are they? Those tickets.
The frequent flyer.
Frequent flyer miles. Yeah.
That's a good. Yeah, because that's like the main plot line of that movie. Mm-hmm. Oh man, that's good. Okay, what's mine? Let's see.
Doom, 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 doom.
I can't even think. I'm trying to land on one particular movie, but oh man, it's got to be one of your favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess you could just cut over this if it takes too long.
What? What's that?
I said I guess we could just cut through this if it takes too long.
No, we're not cutting any of this. This is the process. This is the creative process. See, what I'm trying to do is explain it badly. I can't, how do I?
Well, don't think
that.
badly. Just think, just to try to explain it completely opposite than what it would be explained as. Not necessarily bad, but to where try to take what you know about the movie, but what most people don't think about in the movie, and use that to describe it.
Okay. See, even that, it's because these plot points it's too recognizable. I'm trying to do one with this one movie that's going to be too, I can't come up with a thing. A guy tries to sell his entertainment in order to get entertainment. I did it. That was tough, but I did it.
A guy tries to sell his entertainment in order to get entertainment. One of my top 5.
Yeah.
He tries to sell his entertainment.
Well, technically, yeah, that's okay. Maybe the wording is wrong. Let me put it this way: somebody tries to sell someone's entertainment to get entertainment. Let me define it even better. Someone tries to sell someone else's entertainment to afford their entertainment.
So will you go back and edit this?
No,
Like,
there's no editing. No editing.
Cut all of this so that
No.
it could seem like I answered it instantly.
No.
I think we should do that.
I'm gonna double up. I'm gonna repeat segments.
Selling entertainment. I need another clue.
Okay. Let's see.
Sales entertainment.
That person's entertainment gets turned into their nightmare.
Mulholland Drive?
No,
Ah,
that's a good one.
I
That could have been. That could have been.
shoot. I lost, man. What is it?
I might have been not giving you clues enough. Requiem for a Dream. He tries to sell her TV so he can be.
Oh, God.
It might not have been very good.
Well, but no,
Because it kind of is the whole.
right.
It kicks
That's
off
what kicks
the
it off.
plot.
Yeah.
Because it's all about him selling entertainment to get entertained. I guess entertained could be.
That's a better way to say it. Yeah. He sold entertainment to get entertained. Well, that's still kind of big, but still.
I did say that.
I thought you said entertainment for entertainment.
Oh, well, yeah. I think I messed that up.
That's all right, though. I mean, you nailed yours, you know. You got it, man.
Well, I didn't. I had to ask for a question.
Still, though, that was vague.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I know,
That's
right?
tough.
You know where I got the idea for that? Well, so I don't know if we were going to play this again, but I had to do a paper in class one day, and I was talking about, this is a good segue. I was talking about God in movies, and then I asked the class, I go, have y'all ever saw that movie? Have y'all ever seen that movie about a hitman who ends up giving his life to God?
Oh.
And they're like, no, what movie is that? I'm like, it won an Oscar. They're like, no, it was nominated for an Oscar. They're like, no, it did win. And they're like, no, there's no movie that won an Oscar that's about a hitman who gave his life to God. I'm like, yes, it is. And what? Pulp Fiction. Like, oh. But
I mean, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of one of the plots, and it's interesting because I think it's fascinating for Tarantino. As far as my understanding, he's atheist now, but I think around that time, another thing that I found interesting is that he put like a godlike element in From Dusk Till Dawn when he wrote that. Because he says a line, he puts a preacher in there who's down on his faith, and I like a line that preacher says. The preacher goes, if these vampires, coming back to that, wow.
Oh yeah.
So if these vampires are real, he's like, the preacher doesn't say that, but Seth, George Clooney's character, says it. He's like, if those vampires are real, preacher, then God's gotta be real. If vampires are real. Which is, I concur, but the cool thing about that is that so I wonder what Tarantino was saying, sort of in that sphere of at that time with those movies, because he's putting that in his films.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like why is Samuel Jackson's character wanting to follow God? You know, in that film, I just thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, and it's done so well, like that you don't even realize until you would like point that. It's like explain like the same thing we just played. It's like yeah, you don't think of it like that, but really that's kind of the full story from the beginning to the end of that story.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a good segue into our discussion for the day.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I want to sort of talk about is what's fascinating nowadays. One of the things fascinating nowadays is how you have a rise of biblical content in mainstream media. And in particular, we have the Amazon series House of David that just released a few weeks ago. As a matter of fact, I want to say the last episode came out today.
How many do they do?
I think it's 7. I want to say it's either 7 or 8 episodes. Yeah, and it came out today, and I've been watching it, and I think that's an interesting discussion. Because obviously me and Dylan are we believe in God deeply and truly, and we don't like to be super religious about certain things in certain conversations, but we do believe in God. And I just think it's a fascinating story that because we do believe in God, but we are filmmakers as well. And for years, there's always a stigma when it comes to art and God. Specifically, if you want to get specific with the God of the Bible, there's always been like this weird, and it's always annoyed me that it has to be that way. But there's always been this weird stigma. And so now you see like things like The Chosen, that show has been huge for a while, and then it got super huge as of late, so much so to where I think they released like 3 episodes as movies.
Oh, The Chosen?
Yeah, where you can actually go see them in theater. And then once again, going back to the House of David. And so what makes this such an interesting time is that people, and I guess this is sort of the part of this discussion maybe I want to hone in on, is that people are, of course, bothered by some of the things in House of David. Because they feel like they're adding stuff that wasn't there. And then they're also bothered by the violence that's in it. But the violence is in the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just an interesting thing. Like, to me, that's fascinating. Like, how do you feel about all of that?
How do I feel about what particular, like the violence in...
Well, I mean, I guess for right now...
Or adaptation of Bible stories, or...
Yeah, I guess right now, for the sake of the discussion, like any part of that just affects you a certain way. Whether it is the violence, or whether it is a Bible story, or whether it is just the idea of portraying somebody that has a godly life on screen, or the stigma around it, or like any of that.
The whole topic.
Right? The whole topic.
Well, I guess my feelings about this, and we actually, I was thinking we had an episode about like a little bit touching about all this stuff. But I'm glad we're doing it almost again, but in a different way, because I think I have a lot of thoughts about it. And I was listening to that podcast and thinking like, oh, I didn't even kind of get to what my main kind of thing or thoughts behind it. Mm-hmm. I could turn it into like a kind of a, as I walk through like my life and different experiences, it's like a journey. They say faith is like a journey, or I don't know if they say that, but faith is like a journey to me. And it really is. It's not like a static thing where you just say like, oh, I believe, and oh, cool, I'm good from there.
That's it, guys. Yeah. Nothing else required.
It really is like something that it changes and morphs, and different questions. You have questions that you don't have anymore, and then the questions are always changing, and the things you find are always changing, and so like I look at the stuff that, like, let's say like the stuff that I do art-wise, storytelling-wise, is somewhere it's like where I'm at currently, so I'll talk about like, or things I discovered about myself that I want to write about, With a biblical story, you are going off of things. You're an artist, right? An artist created this thing, but it's going off of a Bible that's already been written, and from a people's perspective of that time and situation. And you have so if you create something now and you're trying to tell the same story, so like the Bible or The Chosen, that's a bigger one. And that I have like a mixed feelings about. I haven't seen it. I plan on maybe watching it, but whatever the society is going through at the time is reflected into the work that you do as an artist, as a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. So if an original story was a pure thing, you're going to take that story, you're going to retell it, you're going to contextualize it under modern day things. You're going to look, because we read the Bible and we look at the Bible and look at a story and we say, well, how does that relate to me? How does that story relate to the world? And so we do that in our heads, but we're not rewriting the Bible and, or amplifying a word or something. Maybe the word is being amplified to us, but we don't do the opposite. With things you make, you amplify the things that you want to talk about, the subjects you want to talk about. So in a way, I think it's a dangerous world to get into of telling a story about the Bible like that's ripped from the Bible straight. Like, this is Noah in the time of Noah, and we're telling that story. So part of me feels like conflicted about that, but then part of me realizes like stories are the best way to learn. I think it's a way to learn. It's good. It's a good way to learn. And, you can have a movie about World War II and tell things, how somebody went through this time. And it's good to tell these stories about people in time because you can relate to different situations. With the Bible, I don't know. I think to me, it's like it crosses a line a little bit. And then the other part about that is like, if they're showing Jesus particularly, that's its own kind of thing, because I wonder, the whole thing of no engraven image of me. Mm. So is that not what an actor is an engraven image of Jesus, basically?
That is definitely an interesting question. So that
was a huge part, in the Bible, so. You know what I mean? Isn't that literally what that is? And if you have now this, again, I'm not trying to be Mr. Judgy or whatever. I know that iconography is a big thing and people wear the cross on their, all that stuff. You see Jesus engraved in a lot of chapels and all this kind of thing. But I've always wondered about that. That's always been a question of I thought we're not supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. So now you must have an idea of all that stuff.
Oh, definitely. That's fascinating though. I never specifically, speaking of Chosen or any kind of film adaptation of the Bible, I never connected that to the graven images kind of thing. I definitely did with the cross and then iconography and everything, but not with that. So that's fascinating that you bring that up. I think so. Zooming out the conversation, I think the difficult thing is technology that we have to work against, meaning that technology goes in such a way that it's hard for us to know where it's going, how fast it's going, its speed. Society has to adjust, society has to catch up. And technology doesn't particularly care about your religious beliefs. You know what I mean? It's just sort of a thing that goes. Yeah. And so the reason I'm saying that, though, is because at one time, especially back in the times the Bible was written, you didn't have you had other civilizations that did have graven images of their god. And so when scripture says that, it's particularly going against, at least within the context, it's saying it's going against those graven images. In other words, because back then they would have like, statues, and they would have like little like graven images that they kind of walk around with, and those things represented their gods. And so, and at least in the narrative of the scripture, because that's in Torah and that's part of the commandments. I want to say it's in Leviticus, but don't quote me. Don't quote me. But so when it's talking about graven images there, that's what it's referring to. But there is a whole nother level of that particular command that is a spiritual thing or an emotional thing or a mental thing. And so, but over the course of time, technology has changed in such a way, and not only technology, but also society and people have changed in such a way, not God, not saying God changed, but like kind of the way we live has changed in such a way to where it appears that certain things are obscured. And what I mean by that is that, at one point, we didn't have to worry about somebody depicting Jesus in a story because there was no camera to depict him on. Yeah, and then we didn't have to worry about somebody drawing a picture of Jesus because there was no canvas, there was no paper that you could draw him on that would be print pressed all throughout, the world. You see what I mean? So, those inventions, whenever we hit inventions like that, like nowadays we're going through that same similar thing now with AI. Whenever we hit inventions like that, it's always challenging in connection to the religious beliefs. Now, I don't think it should be challenging personally, but it is challenging in connection to religious beliefs because it's like, well, okay, well, how do we do this now? How do we do that now? So to the graven images thing, that I would say that. Now, I do agree with you that there is a line that you cross when it comes to certain stories and certain biblical stories that you choose to tell and ones you choose not to tell, because the Bible is one of the most read books in history. It's one of the most read books. And so, of course, if you have problems with a comic book and its fans adjusting to it, this is not even real. Go figure. You have a text that, millions and millions of people believe are real, that a book that was used to run civilizations and literally carry the moral fabric of that nation. Of course, you make a movie about that, you have a weight. But here is the contradiction, though. Here's the contradiction. Technology was also used, quote unquote, especially within Christianity, to further the gospel. One of the reasons in the modern times that the gospel of Jesus and so many nations have heard about who Jesus is because of media. Billy Graham was somebody that capitalized heavily off of the televangelist movement. Yeah. All of a sudden, you got evangelists on TV talking about Christ. It's moving. So you see, there's the contradiction. It's like, well, you're talking about this, but you're on TV, but the message is being spread. You know what I mean? So, you got this. So anyway, where I was going with that is that now you have so many Christians that have fought for Christian content in comparison to content that is not Christian, which is in the mainstream, which is the main thing that people have. You have Christians picking them for content, but then when you get content, it's like, uh-oh. This is weird. This is violent. This is pretty much like the rest of the content that we see. And it's like, well, but you guys wanted this this is the Bible you read. This is the Bible you study. This is the Bible you follow. There's a scene, and I'll switch it over to you in a second, but there's a scene in, spoiler alert, just in case if any of you never seen House of David, the first episode, but there in the first episode, it may have been the first or the second, but there's a scene where Samuel kills a prophet, and it's bloody, and he kills him. Like they're not pulling any punches with the violence, and that I think I read people being disturbed by that. I'm like, that's the Bible we read. So I don't think, I guess all of this I'm saying, I honestly don't think it is a particular way or a particular way to define certain things based on the ever-changing technology by where when people use it, we're affected in the way that we are. And that's kind of hard to define. But I will say this: one of me and your favorite things to quote is we always like to quote. I just did it earlier.
Oh yeah.
What's his name from There Will Be Blood? What's his character name? Paul.
He does these things.
Yeah, Paul's character. He does these things that and talking about God. But one of the reasons we like quoting that is because, and where I'm going with this, I think people tend to assume that a religious life. So, and for lack of a better word, because I really don't like that word religion, but people assume a religious life, kind of like we were saying earlier, it's just based on something that's black and white, or that's okay, that's the answer, that's it, we're done, we're moving on. But usually some of the most engaging stories come out of the plight that somebody has discovering God and discovering truth. Which is why we like that quote. He does these things, Daniel. Some of the most powerful things come out of that. So that's where another discussion needs to be had as to, okay, we may not have the Bible, but we have these incredible godly stories that touch our lives in a very real way, which is what you were saying, in a very real way, in a very effective way. Do we tell those stories or not? Are we wrong for telling those stories or not? And I personally believe that it's almost like, for me, I feel like, well, whether I'm wrong or not, initially, that's not my initial concern. My initial concern is, do I have the ability to tell this story as a filmmaker? Do I have the ability to resonate this with an audience as a filmmaker? Am I willing to be transparent and sincere that has my work being potent where the audience can really be affected by it? And that's like the first thing. And then I'm like, okay, now if I can't do it, well, I guess I can't do it. So my rant's over. How do you feel about it?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a tough. I don't know. I always think about the like a what is it? Like a zoomed out view of everything. Mm-hmm. And is this a good thing for this? And is this a bad thing for this? Is this a net positive? Is this a net negative? And I probably think too much of it like that because it doesn't always. Well, I don't know. It's like it almost doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah. Because I think I've done that for a while, but I'll make mistakes, and I'll look and I'll say, well, what was that overthinking about? If you're gonna make a mistake anyway, you're what do you? So you're wasting your time, and then you're gonna make the mistake anyway, and so maybe that way of living is like not a correct way or whatever, but. Yeah, that's why I can get like when I say like I'm not trying to sound judgy, it's very true. I don't judge people that are making those shows and those movies because one, I don't even know how I feel about it. So how am I to say shame on you for making this when I don't even know if it's correct or wrong or right, so, and again, like you said, things are told through mediums and people love movies. That's why I like to tell movies as well, because because it's an easy medium for people to find out something. I saw the guy that plays Jesus. I don't know his name. Jonathan. You know his name?
I know him when I see his face, but I don't know his name.
They were asking like how the weight of that, like what's the weight of you're playing Jesus? This sounds, I mean, how do you deal with that? And he's like, well, one time, I'm going to get this wrong, but he was like something to where he was reading these lines and they're really heavy lines. And he kind of like had to stop and take a beat because he was like, it kind of hit him, like the weight of it all. And he had to talk to the director and be like,
I heard that happened to Jim Caviezel.
oh yeah,
In Passion of the Christ. I heard that happened to him too.
he got electrocuted twice. Apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, a lightning bolt hit him
What?
while they were filming the cross stuff.
Oh, golly.
Yeah. So when that stuff happens, you might think, oh, did God?
Yeah. Should you be doing this or no?
Maybe it should stop. I don't know. I think that would be a tough one for me as like a filmmaker to make. If somebody was like hiring me to make a story and it had to be about Jesus, I don't think I would do it. I just don't think I would do it.
Yeah, I remember for years I shared the same view. I was like, and one of the reasons I didn't want to was because I just didn't want to deal with people. Because I'm like, people are gonna pick at you. They're gonna say, oh, what about it's that's what I mean. There's always a stigma between when it comes to God and art. Like it's just there always is. There's always a problem. You're always you're doing this wrong. It's supposed to be this. It's supposed to be this. And that was why for me I was like, I'm just not gonna touch the Bible then. I'll just make a film about a pastor, which is what I'm working on now.
I think that's the way to go, though. I mean, maybe not for everybody, but like I would much rather tell a different story. Now, there's one like a script I'm working on that I'm really excited for. I've done a draft of it, and I might hopefully do another draft and make it. But it's maybe a retelling of Adam and Eve, but it's not. It's like influenced by.
Oh, is this
Mahogany?
Oh man, yeah.
Hopefully one day, man.
I'm looking forward to that one.
But it's
inspired though. It's biblically inspired.
Yeah, so it's not a 1-to-1.
Right,
it's really because it's about people in the modern day. It's not about that time at all. Mm-hmm. And so they're not like a 1-to-1. This is exactly what happened with them. But it is influence. Like you're going to see, certain things will resonate with that story. Mm-hmm. And to me, that might be the way to go is like, you want to talk about biblical things, do it, but do a different story. Mm-hmm. Have something relate to a Bible story, but not a 1-to-1. Because then again, you run into like where I would worry is like running into, I want to talk about modern problems. If this was the story that, like if somebody watched The House of David before reading the book, right? They would get certain things from it that they wouldn't maybe from the book. And now that's a dangerous thing, I think, with scripture.
That's a risk. Yeah, it is a risk.
But yeah, I don't know. It's tricky though. Yeah, it's definitely tough.
Yeah, they have. So going back to you saying the thing, doing something biblically inspired. You have filmmakers that actually do that now, even though people don't think that they're biblically inspired, but they do. You have filmmakers that were raised believing the Bible. Now, of course, I personally, I think their quote unquote faith or their relationship with God, so to speak, may be compromised. I don't know their personal lives, but just with their work, because some of it is incredibly violent, and some of it, it's extremely sexual. So some of those conservative, I guess, for lack of a better word, aspects of the Bible, you may not have them in, but they are using those moral themes, those biblical, specifically even moral themes, to tell their stories. As a matter of fact, Noah Hawley uses that throughout Fargo.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout Fargo, it's so much to the point where there's sometimes you have people, quoting the Bible in them. You know what I mean? And then not only that, going back to Pulp Fiction, what drives that entire film is a quote from the Bible. Now, of course, he's using it very like twistedly in the sense of a hitman, and somebody, killing somebody and everything like that with the violence. But that same quote for that particular character, what's interesting is that same quote, he gets a spiritual and godly revelation from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, wow. It's interesting how that happens. So, yeah, I agree with you. I like the aspect of telling stories that are inspired by the Bible instead of trying to recreate a biblical story or a biblical narrative. Now, I'm with you. Like, I'm not really judging people that do that, but it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous to do things like that. And so now, but as far as the show itself, House of David, like it's a pretty decent show. I mean, there's certain standards that I kind of judge it by in the sense of through the lens of a filmmaker, and so there's certain things that I think they kind of don't have a grasp on yet. I don't think they have a good grasp on the tone, and I don't think they have a good grasp on just sort of the entire atmosphere of the show. I don't know how to explain it. You can tell they're borrowing from things that have already been done, which I can't blame them because that stuff is successful. But outside of that, there are moments in the show that I do see. I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool to see because I know it from the Bible. This is fascinating and that's fascinating because I know it from the Bible. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's one of those discussions that just you got to do a draw on it. You know what I mean? Unless there's somebody that's super spiritual with scripture and says, no, it has to be this and it has to be that. But that's whew.
Yeah, it's maybe that was like, because I do like, so I saw the pilot. I forgot to watch another episode. But I saw the pilot of The House of David, and it was good. It was a really well done pilot. It was cool to see, Bible stories haven't always been, when done on TV, I mean, they're very dated. Right. Even for the time, they were very dated. Right. So it felt like they're always catching up with the filmmakers that are not religious or whatever. But so it was cool to see that, I remember my, my uncle, he knew I was going to be a filmmaker, and he at the time was a pastor. Dwight is his name, and he isn't a pastor now, but he was, and he finding out I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I remember him saying do you are you going to make Christian films? You could make Christian films, and I didn't want to laugh in his face, but I also did because. Because at the time I was no, I want them to be.
You ever heard of Paul Thomas Anderson?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard of Pulp Fiction? No, I had this because when you say you want to make it's almost like a different category of filmmaker, it's a different world. And so I was like, no, I want to be a real filmmaker, but nowadays I'm way more into this idea. I've almost come full circle because maybe it's just that my walk in faith has grown. Well, I know it's grown. And so that I want to, that reflects in my art. But I still want to make my movies the way they are, and so I don't know if that would align with just make biblical stories. But the whole thing is I can't. I'm already at odds with that anyway. That I think my better stories are the ones that would be original and my own thing. Now they could be based like Mahogany is inspired in part by the Adam and Eve thing, but it's not that. And so I think that to me, like, I mean, it's always going to be like, all my stuff is like, there's a spiritual aspect to like the stories I tell. There's always something kind of, yeah.
So, when you tell somebody, hey, I'm going to be a doctor, they'll be like, oh, cool. You're going to work on patients. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to be an electrician. Oh, okay, cool. You're going to work on, a bunch of different kind of stuff. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to be a plumber. Oh, you're going to work on toilets and yeah. Hey, I'm going to be a musician. Oh, a Christian musician?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be a filmmaker. Oh, a Christian filmmaker? Yeah. Like, all of a sudden, that title has to be in front of it for those specific.
Yeah, nothing else. You're going to be a Christian plumber.
I'm going to be a chef. Oh, okay, you're going to make good food, huh? Like, no, I'm going to be a Christian chef. What does that mean? I'm going to make Christian food.
That's hilarious.
I say that, I don't say that from the perspective of somebody that doesn't believe and is not following God. I'm saying that from the perspective of what does that really mean? What are we saying?
If I'm I wouldn't define myself as a Christian or whatever. I believe, like, I have faith, right? I have faith in God and Jesus. And so if you call me a Christian, yeah, maybe, but not, I guess. But really, all I'm going for is just what is the truth of the thing. And so I don't care what, like, a religion can, well, that goes off onto a tangent, but my point being, yeah, it's the same thing as, like, well, people that would think of my films and being like, oh, well, they're not like Christian films. Well, yeah, they are in my mind.
I know, right?
Yeah, they're not. Yeah. No, because they are Christian films. I'm not like, it's not a Bible story, but I'm a believer making movies. Mm-hmm. So it's about belief in life and all this stuff. It's so, like, why limit it if, yeah, that's like maybe a complaint about like religion or as a whole, maybe of like, you can't box in, if you believe in God, well then you can't box in God to anything. He's found everywhere in everything, even if it doesn't look a certain way. If God is God, then he's everywhere. He's everything. So,
and there's such a. And once again, this is one of those topics that it goes into like the religions and all of that. But one of my last things I'll say about on this topic is that to me there's such a lie that's being told to me when I watch certain movies. I listen to certain I listen to engage certain stories, listen to certain music. I don't like the fact that you have all these artists that get to create, but when somebody loves God, they can't, or you have to limit it. And I get why people do, because there is a narrow path. There is something, you don't. From what I've encountered in my personal life, a life lived for God isn't this thing where you just do everything you want to do. Like, it's just not like that.
Yeah.
And truthfully, life isn't like that. If anybody's telling you it is, they're selling you something. but you don't get to do what you want to do. And I understand the restrictions that people put on each other and the standards and the accountability. I understand that. But the problem is what we get, the media we get every day, they're proving to us that they can tell supernatural stories that we're afraid to tell.
Yeah.
They can go to supernatural places that we're afraid to go to. And we have to put a cap on it and stop it and shut it down because we claim to follow God. And that, to me, that's just, anyway.
Well, that's another thing. And yeah, I'm not trying to gain enemies by my thoughts or something, but.
Yeah, we're not here to try to insult anybody.
Yeah, I feel like we're like filmmakers aren't going to want to watch this. Believers aren't going to want.
Neither one of them are gonna want to.
Everyone's going to hear. We're making enemies.
Making different people mad.
Yeah. but I don't know. I guess just to say like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. Life is.
So that's what we got today.
Life is just very complex. It's so much more complex than I originally thought. I like to see things in black and white and realize that that's just not how life is. It's a mixture of a bunch of things. And, making movies is part of that too. Like the difficulties of being a filmmaker, being an artist, being a human being. Like, it's all difficult, and there is no like one clear path forward, or maybe there is, but I don't know it. So I think do what you can, try to do good. If you fail, you try again. If you learn, you could make something. I've made things that now I look back on and I say, well, I wouldn't have done that now where I'm at. Like, and I'm talking like in my faith, I wouldn't have done this thing now. But I did it, right? And so it's a thing that I've made in my past, and that's who I was in my past, made that thing. I don't regret that thing.
Well, that's where you were.
Yeah, that's where I was. It is what it is, and then you kind of like, again, you just make where you create where you're at every step of the way. So
yeah, and that goes into I guess we'll shut it off here because that goes into even more conversation. But
sorry for making you guys mad.
Yeah. We disclaimer: we're not trying to insult anybody on this video. Whatever religion you follow, we're not trying to be insulting to anybody. We are just stating our views and our opinions on these particular matters of filmmaking and the like. But
also, I want to just say, if you're, you might have come into this because we're a film company, and like us talking religion, you might be like, oh no, I'm done with that. But even if you don't believe, that's fine too. Like I kind of just like that's even better, honestly, or not better. It's it is what it is. But like don't let the religion talk, I guess, dissuade you from watching. But it's just, I mean, that's our films are spiritual. They've got other aspects too that if you weren't religious, you'd still like, hopefully. But like, I think the way I like look at it nowadays is like, everyone is here, and so we're trying to figure out life. Like everybody's trying to figure out life if they believe in something or not. They're still trying to figure out life, and what it means to them and stuff. So I don't know. It just that little disclaimer of don't we're not trying to sell you on religion or anything. Yeah.
So, watch our films. We also have audio-only podcasts, as we mentioned earlier. And, we will be back with more content for you guys. Thank you.
See ya.